Been a tough day for financial markets, with the chip-making giant nvidia briefly, it became the world's most valuable company last week, you may well remember, overtaking Microsoft. Well, its share value slipped some 6% during Monday's trading session. It isn't just nvidia, though, taking a hit, as a host of other AI-linked chip makers declined as well. So is this a sign the AI frenzy is cooling down? Let's discuss this with Swetha Ramachandran, fund manager at Artemis Investment Management. Swetha, lovely to see you again. I mean, it had to happen, didn't it, really? I mean, it's still valued nearly $4 trillion. It's still an enormous company, isn't it?
Absolutely. And even after the sort of technical drawback that we've had in the last 3 days, the shares are still up 140% year to date. What's even more remarkable is that since the end of 2022, just in 18 months, the shares have gone up 8 times, which is nearly a 700% increase. At that time, nvidia and Tencent, a Chinese company, were vying for the role of the 10th largest stock in the world markets. And of course, as we know, briefly last week, nvidia eclipsed all other global stocks to become the most valuable stock by market capitalization briefly.
I noticed that Monday's decline followed disclosures that on Friday the CEO of nvidia sold quite a lot of his own stock. And this is kind of how it rolls, isn't it, with these kind of companies? It's not a sign at all, the huge sell-off Monday, that there's any concerns about the outlook for nvidia, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the short term, markets tend to be led by sentiment, by momentum. In the long term, very much by fundamentals. I think the fundamentals for nvidia still look very much intact. Of course, this is a company that just a month ago reported Q1 revenues up 262% year on year, and has argued for very strong growth outlook going ahead as well. But clearly that was starting to be reflected in valuation. I think the share sale per se was of a relatively small quantum, about $95 million. And it was part of a pre-programmed sale. So that on its own perhaps wasn't sufficient. But the market took a view, I think briefly, considering that it had eclipsed Microsoft and Apple, which are far more established companies. Maybe that was time for a pause to think, well, actually, how much bigger can this company get and how quickly?
Yeah, just some profit taking, that kind of thing. Swetha, thanks very much. Good to see you. Swetha Ramachandran there. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.